Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be a video about the upcoming pattern. There really is no big storm that is going to be massive in the near future. Other than the one that is occurring right now. I could do a live stream on it. I won't be doing an update video on it, and not many things have changed, so things have stayed consistent. So no need for an update. However, I think I will be updating you guys about the pattern though. And let's just get right into this. Consider subscribing to this channel. Consider liking this video. It really means a lot. I really love your guys' support. And it truly means a lot to me. So if you could, subscribe and like the video, that would really mean a lot. And that really helps this channel grow. So right now we're looking at the past negative 72 hours. You can see the GFS. Just basically looking at the geopotential height. And this basically just shows us the anomaly heights and where it is basically colder and where it is warmer. When you see the brighter colors, it usually indicates more warmth, and then when you see the colder colors, it indicates more colder temperatures. And that's why, again, by the North Pole, we're looking at the northern hemisphere here. You can see the Americas right there. The North American continent, really. The South American continent's down here, but you can see that it's right there. And basically, what we have is a big chunk of cold air up here, but very warm conditions down to the south. That's what has been occurring for the past several days, right? As we look into the future, you can see that really breaks down mainly to do because of this giant system right here that we had and is occurring right now across the country. And I've been warning people about this for many days. I think it's been a week already, and again, it came to fruition. Very heavy snow across the Dakotas, very heavy snow across Minnesota, and blizzard conditions are occurring with that as well. Blizzard warnings are going to get hoisted. So are ice storm warnings. They're already up and running, if you will. And again, this storm just kind of triggers a massive pattern change. Notice that this basically sets the stage for a more of a Arctic pattern to occur. So we see very warm colors down to the south. We see another digging across the California area. That storm doesn't look too powerful, though. We may have to watch that. It's going to be occurring on Friday, Saturday of the January 3rd, 4th time frame. Notice, however, we get a dose of cold air right there across the country. That's a pretty chilly air. Below average. We have a low pressure to the north of that, kind of driving that even further to the south. Notice that maintains itself for a good while and actually gets all the way down into the southern U.S. Really with those chilly conditions, while the west ridges with some very warm conditions, and that's a typical negative NAO pattern. That may seem to break down for a little bit, however, then we get another resurgence towards the end of the forecasting period. And really, this isn't, warm temperatures. This is around average. If you were to look at this, let's go back to the continental United States, stay at 330. That's basically a zonal flow, so a little bit warmer than average possibly. But again, look at that cold up to the north, just very cold here, a little bit warmer to the south, so kind of like a split pattern. But again, this cold air would eventually be driving right down into the southern U.S. But yeah, it seems like this is not just a GFS that's agreeing with this. And of course, if you were to look at the CPC Climate Prediction Center for the January 3rd, 4th, 5th time frame, where we could start getting some of this cold air, you could see right there 6th, 7th. If you were to look at that a couple of weeks back, they're showing way above average conditions, warmer temperatures. Why? Well, because it's a Climate Prediction Center. They usually don't know how to make a forecast. And I mean, seriously, it's just getting out of hand. Their forecasts are just so biased towards the warmth that it just really hurts. But that's what they think will be occurring, and they could think whatever they want. But notice, look at all these colors. January 6th, you could see very chilly temperatures. January 7th, we went from literally 60s in Illinois to, if you look at the temperatures here, around 0, 12, 8, 0, 3, -5 across the country. So yeah, that's quite a change, and I wouldn't call that warm, really, especially given the fact that the models are hinting at this pretty strongly, and you can see below average for most of the country, really, across the January 7th, 8th time frame. So when many kids and people are going back to work, 6th, 7th, you can see right there. So possibly very, very cold. We get a nice little warm up right there. You see very short and relatively short-lived. And we see another cooler blast of air coming through, which this one could be just brutal. And that's the setup for this country. It looks as if there will be many chances for a very cold air, a little fewer, I would say, for snow. There won't be as impressive snow with the cold, and that usually that makes sense. Cold air holds less moisture. The snow systems that do occur are usually less impressive. And if we were to look at the MSLP and precip, let me guide you through this and show you. You can see it's going to be pretty high and dry, maybe a clipper or a storm coming in through, mainly rain. That's before the cold air arrives, before the 4th, 5th kind of triggers a landslide of cold air. Notice this clipper right here could bring some light snow, not a big storm. Then we see just cold and cold and cold, and then nothing for a long time before maybe another system starts developing across the country right here. That could be one to watch. But as of now, it just looks like cold air is plentiful. We look at very cold temperatures, and we're looking at some active possible snowstorms towards a longer range. I wouldn't call it, a snowy pattern, but I would say a wintry dynamic pattern is going to be occurring, as some of these weather models aren't hinting as a snowstorm right now. But a snowstorm may definitely occur in that time frame, so it's nothing to be too worried about, as the models constantly change in terms of the precip outbreaks. Usually when we have such consistent readings of cold temperatures, they don't change too often from warm to cold, cold to warm. They do that when it's more borderline, not when it's such a strong indication of cold air. So that's just the GFS. Let's look at the GEFS, the GEFS ensembles. Let's look at this, and let's look at the height anomalies, which let's look at the 2-meter temperature anomalies. Let's look at this. This one's interesting. So let's actually go back to 2-meter temp. I don't want the 5-day averages. So again, very warm air up until, or relatively warm air up until the 4th, 5th of January. Then we get a cool blast of air. We get a little bit of trying to warm across the southeastern United States, according to GEFS ensembles. To what extent that is true, we don't know really. I have a feeling that this will be more based on east to west rather than northwest to southeast, but that's what these models are thinking. And again, they start splitting around that 240-hour time frame, so that's like when the European stops showing its model run. So we'll have to see what happens after that, but generally seems more cold driven pattern than a warm driven pattern. And if you were to look at the European model, it shows very cold conditions across the country. This is a little bit higher in elevations, but usually it correlates pretty well. Notice, let's look at this, take this hour by hour. Basically up until this point for the past couple of days, it has been very warm. Look at these temperatures. December 25th, Christmas Day, was one of the warmest Christmases here. 26th was the warmest December 26th ever recorded in Chicago. Probably very similar for many other locations across the eastern U.S. We had that big storm that came through, and it's still pounding parts of the Midwest right now, and it will continue for the next 48 to 72 hours. And if we were to look at the future, look, this is where things really start happening after this storm system kind of breaks a hole in this pattern. We get really quite a good dose of cold air, and you can see that's indicated by those blue dark colors, which would indicate very chilly air. And this is a European model, so that's not just the GFS that's agreeing on this, it's a European ensemble as well. So if you were to look at the Climate Prediction Center, what they said around the 6th, 7th, or 8th, or 9th time frame, yeah, I mean, basically they were completely off. So I'm serious, but I think they should really just stop doing the 3 to 4 week outlooks, as those are just months just horribly off. I mean, seriously, they don't know how to predict anything with those 3 to 4 week outlooks. Stick with the 8 to 14 and 6 to 10. That's my advice for them, and not for the 3 to 4. I don't think anyone should be doing 3 to 4 week outlooks in terms of looking at the models, because that's basically what they do. They don't look at long range patterns, I guess how a warm spring correlates with cold summer, any of those things like I do. That's how I base my winter forecast off, and that's done a very good job so far. Cold November, warm December, and I'm expecting a cold January, February, and March, and that's what things are looking as of right now. And using those type of patterns that I use, you could forecast long range, but using what they're doing with GMA, European, Japanese weather models, European weather models, you can't really do that. And that's why I don't do it, and just really focus on the next, within 200 hours. Otherwise, that's out of my reach. And even 200 hours is pretty darn far. That's about 10, 9, 8, days out. So in terms of weather, that's still kind of far out. So if we were to look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, yeah, they don't show really much cold air, but they don't show warm either. It's more a little bit more cold air, but they have it more across the northwest, which I mean I don't really agree with, but that's fine. It's their choice. And above average for a good portion of the country, just in general, which I'm not really buying at all. The models aren't really showing any big storms, any big systems. We'll see. Maybe they do have some right to that. I would rather, I think their precipitation outlooks are a little bit more, if you will, accurate than their temperatures. So maybe they're right about the precip, but I don't think they're right about the temperatures. But that is that. Long range outlook looks cold. Relatively snowy, as with cold air, usually there's more snow than cold than rain, and even if there's lack of precip, you could still find, a few inches here and there, which could lead to a snowy scenario. Big storms in terms of that, don't see any in the near future. We have to watch the one on Friday, Thursday, Saturday of next week, around the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th of January. We'll have to watch that, but otherwise, looking high and dry, but cold. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Consider liking the video, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.